Let's talk about aging. We all know it's coming. We've just accepted it as an inevitable part of life. But what if the fundamental reason we get old is something we've completely misunderstood? What if it's not what we think it is at all? I mean, for centuries, we've been asking this question, and the answer always seemed pretty obvious, right? Things just fall apart, they wear out. It's a simple idea, and it's dominated how we think about biology for a very long time. But now, all this new evidence is pointing to a much more complex and, frankly, a much more exciting answer. So, here's how we used to see it. The old wear and tear theory says our bodies are like cars. Over the years, you get dings, scratches, some rust, and eventually the parts just break down. Makes sense. But this emerging theory, the information loss theory, says hold on a second. What if the car's hardware, the physical parts, are actually mostly fine? What if the real problem is that the computer running the car has gotten buggy and is forgetting how to work properly? The problem isn't the hardware, it's the software. To really dig into this new theory, our investigation has to start with suspect number one, and that's the body's own dedicated 24/7 repair crew. You know, the team of specialists that's supposed to keep us in tip-top shape from the day we're born. And who is this repair crew? Well, there are stem cells. These things are absolutely amazing. They're like the master builders of our bodies, the raw material that can become anything it needs to be. A new skin cell, a liver cell, you name it. They're always working in the background, fixing things up and replacing old parts.
But here's the catch. As we get older, that repair crew, well, they start to slow down. A lot. Their regenerative power just isn't what it used to be. And you don't need a PhD to see this in real life. Just think about it. A kid breaks their arm, and they're back on the playground in a few weeks. An older person suffers the exact same injury, and it can take months, maybe even longer to heal.
And here's where it gets really weird. It's like our stem cells start having a midlife crisis. When we're young, these particular stem cells, the MSCs, are all about one job, becoming bone cells, keeping our skeletons strong and healthy. But as they age, they start switching careers. More and more of them decide, you know what, I think I'm going to become a fat cell instead. And this is not some small, insignificant change we're talking about. This has huge consequences for our health. That major shift from making bone to making fat is a huge reason why we get conditions like osteoporosis as we age. It literally changes the inside of our bones from a busy factory into, well, a fatty storage unit. So this brings us to the real heart of the mystery. Is the repair crew itself just broken? Are the stem cells worn out and faulty? Or are the workers themselves perfectly fine, but they're just getting bad instructions from a confused boss? Are they just following bad orders? Well, that leads us right to suspect number two. And this is where we get back to that idea of corrupted software. Maybe the workers, the hardware, are fine. Maybe the real problem is the operating system that's telling them what to do in the first place. And that operating system has a name: epigenetics. The best way to think about it is like this. Your DNA is a giant cookbook with thousands and thousands of recipes. The epigenome is the head chef. Now, the chef doesn't change the recipes. The DNA is fixed. But the chef decides which recipes get made, in which cells, and at what time. It's all about control and organization. And as we age, that head chef, well, he starts to get a little forgetful. The software gets buggy. Imagine tightly wound chapters of that cookbook that are supposed to stay shut suddenly flying open. The little chemical bookmarks that tell the chef which page to look at get smudged or moved around. It's not one little mistake. It's a slow, creeping chaos that spreads across the entire system. Some leading researchers put it perfectly. They say aging is defined by a loss of silencing. You can think of yourselves in your youth as this beautifully conducted symphony. Every instrument knows exactly when to play. But as you age, that symphony degrades into just noise. A chaotic mess where genes that are supposed to be silent are suddenly shouting, and the whole performance just gets sloppy. Okay, so let's recap our little investigation here. We've got suspect number one, the repair crew, our stem cells that are making all the wrong career choices. And we've got suspect number two, the corrupted software, the epigenome that's in total disarray. So, are these two separate problems, or is there a single culprit, one smoking gun, that connects them both? And it turns out there is a smoking gun. The theory goes that aging isn't actually about wearing out. It's about being distracted. It's a progressive loss of that critical epigenetic information, all driven by a lifetime of our cells having to constantly divide their attention between doing their normal job and putting out fires. So it works like this. Imagine your epigenome has these foremen whose only job is to stand there and make sure a skin cell keeps acting like a skin cell. But there's some DNA damage over here from the sun. A fire has broken out. So the foreman has to drop everything he's doing and run over to fix the damage. Now, while he's gone, the instructions back at his main job site get a little messy. This happens millions and millions of times over a lifetime. And eventually, the original instructions get so jumbled that the cell starts to forget its true identity. It's still a skin cell, but maybe it's acting a little bit like a kidney cell too. It's confused. So if we've actually identified the culprit, this slow, progressive loss of information, it leads to the most exciting, mind-blowing question in all of biology. Can we fix it? If it's just scrambled information, can we unscramble it? Can we actually reset the clock? I mean, this is the multi-billion-dollar question that researchers all over the world are racing to answer. Is an old cell like a broken record, where the music is physically destroyed and gone forever, or is it more like a scratched CD? The music, the data, is still perfectly intact underneath. It's just that the player can't read it through all the scratches. Can we just polish the CD and play the original song again? And incredibly, the answer appears to be yes. We can polish the CD. The information isn't permanently lost. It's just scrambled. That original, youthful blueprint is still tucked away, safe and sound in our DNA. And what we're learning now is how to basically force the cell to reboot its operating system and read those original, pristine instructions again. And the approaches scientists are testing are straight out of science fiction. There are parabasis experiments where they've shown that factors in young blood can actually rejuvenate old tissues. There's cellular reprogramming, which uses specific factors to literally rewind a cell's age by resetting its epigenetic patterns. They're even finding ways to reverse other key symptoms of aging, like the shortening of our telomeres. And the stakes here? Well, they couldn't be higher. Every single day, about 150,000 people pass away around the globe. For about 2/3 of them, that's 100,000 people every day, the death certificate might say cancer or heart failure, but the real root cause is aging itself. This isn't just about living longer, it's about living healthier. Which leaves us with a final, pretty staggering thought. For all of human history, aging has been a biological fact of life, just like gravity. But if aging isn't damage, if it's just a loss of information, and if that information can be restored, then solving this ancient mystery might not be the end of the story. It might just be the beginning of a whole new one for humanity.